Hello, everyone. I would like to talk to you about 3D materials today and why suppliers and brands need to be in this together. My name is Renate Eder. I work for Vizoo, and I thank you already for your attention for the next few minutes to give you more insight into the topic of digital materials. Let's get how that works. Okay, so a little bit about us first, about Vizoo. So Vizoo was founded with the vision to democratize material creation. So what does that mean? So till 2013, digitizing a material was a pretty tedious task. It was reserved for experts. You needed a flatbed scanner. You needed DIY light setups and Photoshop in order to create a digital twin of your material. That was possible, but not easy. And the worst thing about it is that it was very dependent on the human doing this task. So if I ask 3 people with this kind of process to digitize a material, you will get 3 different outputs and 3 different results. So since 2013, we are offering tools, hardware and software to make this task easier and to create a more consistent output in this in terms of digital materials. So we have a digital twin which looks always the same no matter who is running the system. We can definitely say that we have hit the industry need because we have developed ourselves from a startup to a leading provider in this field. So a little bit more about us. Our headquarters is here in Munich, so you're all invited to come visit whenever you have time. We have around 30 people working for us, and I'm managing the company together with Martin Semsch, who is also the founder of the company. We both have our experience from our previous job, where we were working at sportswear giant Adidas in the 3D space. Adidas started around 2004, where they were where they started to look into 3D. And when I joined in 2008, my task was to figure out how to reduce physical salesman samples and physical prototypes with the help of 3D. So we were training suppliers all over Asia and manufacturers to create 3D garments, working with IT how to transfer this data to marketing so that we can get it approved, and also how to get it then down the showrooms so that sales can show the salesman samples, which are now suddenly digital and not necessarily physical anymore. And that was the time where Martin was also researching how to figure out or how to create how to set up a mass production for the materials which are needed for these 3D processes. And this is where the idea for Vizoo basically and the products were born. So I have a little video which should put all of us on the same page what material digitization is. It's not too long, don't worry about it. Is this starting? Yeah. So it's a pretty easy task. At the end, we have a light booth and a software, which is ours, where we can create a digital twin of a fabric. And whoever has worked in 3D already knows actually the images which are shown here and knows how to use them. Yeah. Show a little bit more about other features we are doing here before I dig into our main topic of the talk. So I hope that this puts us a little bit on the same page in terms of how the process, or what we really do and what the process looks like. Now, if you have created a digital material, what are you using it for, or what are the application areas you would do it. So if this all comes together, we understand that same as in the physical world, where materials have a very foundational part in fashion and sportswear, it's also true for a digital material. So the digital material is also more or less one of the backbones of your digital application area. So have a look. Let's have a look at some of the examples. So you can create color variations based on a digital form, so saving a lot of iterations or a lot of time creating physical fabric swatches with different color combinations when discussing with your client. Then when it comes to selling a digital fabric, there are several opportunities, for example, to populate a fabric online shop based on 3D representation. We have several suppliers here who already offer digital files for the online shops and are also using the digital output instead of photo shootings. Then this is what we do today, the fabric fair, and this is also our topic for the following slides, how we can also enhance the fabric fair using digital files. And a digital lookbook is also an example where you can save heavy physical lookbooks, providing or creating a digital file from it and creating a faster process and easier sharing possibilities with your client. Then when it comes to more the manufacturers and brands use cases, we talk about 3D design and sampling. I guess everyone heard about these already. And also enhancing the user experience, or actually the end consumer experience with applications like configurators, e-commerce applications, and nowadays also the metaverse, I guess. So having your fabric in this centralized digital library can be used in so many different ways. And I think that's a good visualization, a good chart to understand like how many physical samples and how many fabric swatches we would send around the globe and share amongst departments just to meet those use cases, where with a digital form we would just share the data once it's digitized. So let's have a look at the manufacturers and the brands use cases. From a manufacturer perspective, for fabric mill use cases, the main topics are communicating the design of color variants in order to have an easier discussion platform with the client. The fabric online shop, of course, what I said, you can reduce photo shooting samples when you use your fabrics for your online shop. And of course, the 3D prototyping and sample reduction, which is also in a manufacturing standpoint a very painful process at the moment when it comes to the physical process. We work with different suppliers. I've just selected some of them to have a little bit of insight who they are. And guess how those guys are now digitizing their materials to solve those use cases I've just shown. Of course, they use their own digitization machinery, and they do the digitization task in-house. And then it comes to the brand. So you have seen that our DNA is the sportswear, is a sportswear company. So this is why we're also happy to work with a lot of sportswear brands. And here I have named a few that you have a little bit an overview. Who are those guys? And those use cases are predominantly the 3D design, so that you have more creativity when it comes to design variants. Of course, the reduction of prototypes and samples, and to enhance the e-commerce experience. And we have actually there are a few very nice examples in the meantime out there, how 3D cannot just replace a photo shooting, but really create more or show more information which you could not do with the photograph. So, and now there is the important questions: how are those brands digitizing the materials? So they also do it in-house. And this comes down, and this is actually, now bringing me to the main message of my today's call, is that even the most innovative brands and the most innovative suppliers and manufacturers are digitizing the exact same material multiple times. So it's not about the skill set or the willingness to change. It seems that there is limited interaction and communication happening, that those guys talk about 3D or are aware of what's going on. So we are thinking how to fix a little bit more this lack in communication and connection in this space. What the impact of this communication issue are two things. First, from a brand perspective, it is that the digitization process is still slow. So we see that a 3D designer at a brand receives a is working on 3D design, and then of course needs all the ingredients, which is also a material. But in order to get the material, if it's not coming from the supplier, they start to digitize the material. So the process is perceived as still slow, and brands are putting the adoption on risk and are also struggling with scaling 3D. It might not be the only issue, but it's definitely one item which is worth mentioning and looking at. And then from a supplier perspective, the digitization is still very much limited to in-house 3D process. Maybe there is a prototype to create or a sample to digitize, and this is where the fabric also gets digitized. And we definitely think that there is a missed opportunity to create a return on investment when you enhance this brand interaction. So we experience that most of the brands don't even know that the suppliers are digitizing materials, and many suppliers are not even sure that the brand is already working in 3D design. So we are questioning today, and also during this fair, is it possible that it's also a lack of communication and not necessarily of skill set and technology, what I was just mentioning earlier? And this is why, together with the Performance Days, we have launched this 3D Ready initiative. You might have seen it already at the 3D Forum or when you were browsing online or maybe passing by our booth, is to give it a term and some clear tag to say, hey guys, we are 3D ready. We do offer digital files of our materials, and also the brands have a term to communicate that they are looking for 3D materials. So as today at the Fabric Fair, so much communication and interaction is happening, we are very happy to launch that within this space. And we will see today if it's as easy as that. So how does it work? How does the 3D Ready work? So we are here at the Fabric Fair where brands and suppliers meet. And the 3D Ready helps you as a supplier to communicate that your materials are online. They can be online in your online shop. They can be, they are also online at the Performance Days Loop platform. And no matter if you put a sticker at your booth or you have it online on your website, that doesn't really matter. It's just a way to show the readiness to digitize and also the willingness to digitize. So the digital offering is also provided on the Performance Days Loop platform. So if you have logged in already and seen that whoever of you is working in the 3D space, you can download the 3D data right away, which means that you can experience the fabric not only live, but already in its digital form. So what is the benefit from a process perspective? Yeah? So we believe that there is a tremendous time advantage. No one really has leveraged in that extent. So if we have a first look at the traditional process, so of course today, like November 3rd, the designer experienced the fabrics, select fabrics at the booth. And what would happen then? Yeah? I guess the supplier is noting down or recording which item is of interest. And then maybe not tomorrow and maybe not the day after tomorrow, but let's say in 2 or 3 weeks' time, you might receive a digital fabric. The brand might receive the digital fabric on a desk, and then the designer can discuss with the cross-functional team if they go with that material or not, or order a certain yardage in order to get samples made up. So I think the most common process is the traditional process, like mixed or combined with 3D design. So I think that's what most of the brands are going for at the moment. So you would select your fabric at the supplier's booth. Again, wait for some time till the fabric gets shipped, and then work in 3D design. And what I've mentioned a little bit up front is, in order then to do your 3D design, the fabric has to be digitized. And unfortunately, we still see with a lot of brands that this is the moment where the fabric digitization happens. That means being inspired here on November 3rd, you try to get your design ready by November 17 and figure out that now you have to get someone to digitize your fabric, because now you have to work in 3D and not in Illustrator anymore. So it's not necessarily the ideal thing to do, I guess. Yeah. So we have 0 days, 0 hours gained with this process. Yeah. And this is what we are proposing now, and this is what we are testing out at the performance days today, is that with the 3D Ready initiative, that you as a designer can select and experience your material and also get the information and download it right away. Because at the end, the designer wants to see a product, wants to see the fabric on a product and bring it to life, basically. And this is where you want to choose or select the material. You don't select the material because of the material. You sell and you design a product, right? So, and the quicker you get this item on a product, even if it's a digital one, the easier it is to get either narrow down your selection or get even a decision ideally. That does not mean that maybe someday later someone can still send you a physical fabric swatch. That's not forbidden, basically. But it's the question, when do you expect a designer to use the inspiration which he or she gained today? So we have saved 2 to 3 weeks, maybe with this with this process, in order to visualize a product, and we strongly believe that this can be a tremendous competitive advantage. So some key takeaways, I want to leave you with those for today, and I don't also not to stress you will not keep you with me for an entire hour. But first of all, that fabric digitization task, it's easy. That's nothing which stops you. There are tools out there, and we're happy to show you, which takes you a few minutes to get everything set. Yeah. The second thing is that we strongly believe is that it is about communication. Like the brand and suppliers, please get into contact also on this, like on the digital platform in this digital space, and say, hey, I need this content for my 3D design in order to do my job. Isn't there something which you can provide me with that I can easier fulfill this task? Yeah. And the last point I've also just mentioned is that don't be afraid that the 3D and these digital processes will take every physical sample and every fabric away and every haptic experience away. That's not the point. But there are so many more opportunities which can be leveraged with digital that we should be open to look into those. So as a closing remark, I can only say that we would invite you to let's get 3D ready. I also want to personally thank the performance days that they are so open to interweave and incorporate digital into this physical fabric fair, because we definitely think that this is the future and we cannot ignore that. And if you are interested, we are just right over there in Hall 3 at our booth, and you just try it out.
Can I ask you to show your appreciation, please, for Renate? Now, Renate, I want to make an observation. I work with fabric converters the whole time, and I'm sure we've all been to see them. We want a slightly different fabric. When you speak to a fabric converter, they say, yes, we can do that. And in 3 months' time, they come back to you and say, no, we can't do it. So you've lost 2 to 3 months of your production process. I like what you're doing for the brand stage. Can you upscale this to do it for ingredient stage. So when we say we want the fabric to be different to what's on stand and how they change it, have you yet started working from the extrusion stage and the processing stage before we create the material?
So you mean more from a design perspective and the material creation perspective? So first and foremost, our tools were developed to create digital twins of existing fabrics.
Okay.
But that doesn't mean that the existing, whatever you have digitized, cannot be enhanced or cannot be modified or not changed. So for example, we work with several brands and also actually embroidery companies, because they are, like, for embroiderers, it's super expensive to create physical samples, and they are discussing the changes and design iterations together with the brands, which at the end is a modification of the existent, right? So it's not in terms of colors or how the embroideries are made. We are definitely not a Penelope or a Shimasaki to create or to operate your knitting machine, but of course we also talk a lot or also offer tools for the design process or for the design for a designer.
So we all know we're under time pressure. This is where I feel the future is going to be. I was fascinated, especially the remarks you made about you're not out to replace haptic technology. The material still exists, so you can see the shine, you can see the drape, you can have the feel before you start. So you know what you're dealing with, you just accelerate everything afterwards, which is why I really like it. But that's my commentary. Does anyone want to ask Renate a question? Now's your opportunity. I'm not going to let Renate escape after she's presented. You can either go and find her on her stand in Hall 3. What stands are either side of you, so you're easy to find? Do you know who they are?
It's just when you enter the next hall, we are just right there on the left-hand side. So.
Brilliant. So you can go and ask Renate. I'm going to let her wander back there, and you can find her in Hall 3. But whilst we're here, does anyone want to ask her a question publicly? I think you've got away with it. Can I ask you once again to show your appreciation for what will be the future from Renate?
Thank you. Thanks.